For the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love.
And what are some of the things that you've really
run out of time, and we've got to talk about your latest. I want to go back a little bit, first of all, and celebrate a true legend.
Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work.
And did you pursue performing opportunities while you were in high school?
Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. Who or what are you celebrating tonight? I'm celebrating spring, I'm celebrating Feinstein's 54 Below, and I'm celebrating Lorna Luft. Lorna Luft is one of my favorite entertainers. I have had the luxury of seeing her many times in concert, in shows, in many different incarnations. But tonight, for the first time, I get the chance to sit down and celebrate her and her body of worth. Before I bring her on, I have a very special treat for her. I hope she enjoys it, and I hope you do too. Lorna, this is for you.
The following program is brought to you in living color on NBC.
Hear that bluebird up in a tree. Hear her, what a song. Joy she's bringing, singing to me, singing all day long. Goodbye to skies of gray, for I'm back home to stay. All day long I jump and run about. You can always hear me shouting out, hello.
He looked at his little friend and said, pay no attention to that woman behind the curtains.
Got no time for blues or anything. I'm so happy, I just want to sing. Hello, bluebird, blue sky, sunshine, friends that are real. Oh, folks, sweethearts, oh, how I feel. I'll not go roaming like I did again. I'll stay home and be a kid again. Hello, bluebird, hello. All day long I keep singing, hello, I'm glad I found you, bluebird. Make yourself at home, no more blues, just because I'm happy when I'm around you, bluebird. No more need to roam up above, the sun is shining, the world is ideal. I just can't describe the marvelous way that I feel, with nothing but the blue skies above. What a rosy future lies ahead. Thank you, bluebird. Happy, happy bluebird. Lady bluebird. Hello!
Hello, Lorna.
Hi. Wow, thank you.
Well, welcome to the show. I'm so
Thank you.
thrilled that you're here tonight. First of all, there's so much to celebrate. I know there's a lot going on in the world right now. It's everywhere, and we acknowledge that. So we know that starting off. But I want to talk about the things that we should celebrate right now. First of all, yesterday was your brother's birthday. So happy birthday, Joey. And you also have a new grandchild. So yes. And we're celebrating spring, although it feels like winter here in New York.
Yeah, it's a little nippy out there, but I love spring. It's my favorite time of year. And I know that, look, a lot of people, you know, they love the fall and people love the summer and some people even love the winter, but I really like spring. I like the colors. I like everything it stands for. I like the fact that it's about new beginnings and having, I don't know, there's something about going into a store or a shop and seeing your very first daffodil of the season. And I don't know. I really, really enjoy spring.
I go for a walk every morning, and this morning as I was going for my walk, I started seeing buds on the trees, and I know exactly what you're talking about. It's so exciting to see these buds for the first time. I want to talk about a little bit about your process. Putting a show together. You have a show tomorrow night at Feinstein's 54 Below, and the next night, and I'm going to be there tomorrow night. And when you're starting to put a show together, you have such a body of, I like to refer to it as a body of worth instead of a body of work. You've got this body of worth behind you. And when your fans come to see you, and there will be new people coming as well, you want to please both sides of the equation. How do you decide how you're going to put new material together and please the old fans as well? How do you put it all together?
I really believe that you have to know your audience and you have to know what they're going to enjoy. But you also have to be smart in the sense of don't ever become self-indulgent and don't ever think, well, I like this song and I want to sing this and I want to do this. I think it's really important. And I don't think like that. I find myself think, what would they like? What do they want to hear? What do they expect to hear? So that's what the process my husband and I go through is, looking at all of the things that we have done, but then what do we want to say for something new? What do we want to say? And because God only knows we've been through so much in the last, what has it been, 28 months or something like that, with everything that started with the pandemic, and then we've gotten to this point. And so we also have to realize that we don't need to dwell on certain things, but we can't ignore it. And because I've seen certain shows and things like that, and they don't say anything, and I think, wait, I mean, I'm not saying that we should stay on something that's, but we have to recognize what's current, and we have to recognize, there are things going on in the world that are a hell of a lot more important than we are when we're thinking about it, and that we're this tiny speck, and that, we can blow up a whole bunch of stuff that we think is important, and then we have to sit back down and say, really? Okay, when you really look at the whole picture, I think that we're just this micro dust piece of all of the things that are going on. And I think it also puts things in perspective. And I think that that's one of the things I feel I do, is put it all in perspective and realize that you're not the most important, person, but that what you may say to someone else may be very important for them to take away. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And I look at you, I also look at Lucy Arnaz, who's a friend, Lucy Luckenbill, and you two are so grounded. When you look at the legacy that the two of you have, God bless both of you. No, but seriously,
Lucy's my neighbor in Palm Springs. So guess what? We would probably beg to differ with how.
But I when I spend time with her, I don't see pretense, and I don't see pretense with you either. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. And you just seem to be so grounded in a world where so many people don't take. I mean, they either take themselves too seriously. Perhaps you do, and we don't see that side of it. But the way that I see you, in the way that you present yourselves in interviews and through the lens, is very grounded. And so, what's your secret? Or is there a secret?
I think the way that you were raised, and I was raised by two people who were very funny. My father had a great sense of humor, and we all know about my mother's sense of humor. And if you're raised in a house of laughter and a house of nobody takes anything really too seriously, they may at that moment, but then you look at, again, what's going on besides your household. I think that makes you see things in perspective. And I think also my biggest grounding is when I had my children. And I think I took everything seriously when I didn't have my children, because I only had to think about me. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, well, what if I don't get this job? Or what if I don't do this? Or what if I don't get this partner? What if I don't? And then I had my son, and I thought, it doesn't matter. Not that I didn't care. It didn't matter that much, because whether I got a part or a role or something in my career, he still was going to ask for pancakes.
That's right.
He still was going to want to he didn't, and I thought, that's what's important. So, I mean, now that both of my children have their own children, and I'm a grandmother of 4. Wow, that's the first time I've said that in a couple of weeks, because I just had a new one. I think that puts everything into perspective. I think your family does. I think that's what truly matters, because we're seeing right now families who are going through really, really horrible, horrible things. And you think to yourself, I don't know how they're going to deal with this. I don't know how they are going to find any kind of joy or happiness right now. And my feeling is always, what can I do for them? How can I help? I've always been the kind of person that I never can sit around and watch something on TV. I got to do something. I can't sit around and say, oh, this is really bad. I have to do something about it, and feel that I've brought something to the table. And that's what I feel when I perform. I got to bring something to the table. I've got to tell stories that maybe people haven't heard, and that are attached to the material that I'm singing about. And it always has to have a reason. And the reason for me is never because I like it. It has to be, why am I doing it? And not because of my love of something, because maybe I like something and you don't.
Absolutely. When I reached out to Chris from Stiletto Entertainment, I asked for a giveaway, and we're going to be giving away your book to a very special person tonight. And the word, I'm so glad you mentioned your mom was very funny, because the hashtag word that we're giving away tonight is fun. And we want to have fun tonight. We're going to, and I want to focus on some fun things. I pulled a random question. I haven't even looked at it. So I don't even know what this question is I'm about to ask you. The question is, if you could only keep 3 things from your home, what would you pick and why?
Oh my goodness. My husband would be the first thing I'd
Okay,
pick.
great.
My dog, and the third, I don't actually. I've never thought about that. I don't know what I would pick as the third, because I'm not really attached a lot to stuff, because I think because we lived like gypsies
Mm-hmm.
for so long, and that's what we do in the theater. We move from place to place and we go. So things don't become as important when you're constantly moving. So I guess as many photographs as I possibly could acquire in the time that I would have to feel that I had to acquire a third thing. But I just find myself, I'm not very, as I said, I'm not very attached to things and to, I guess you would call it stuff. I like it and I love to shop for it.
Okay.
And I love to buy it, but I'm not really attached to things like, some people are attached to, I don't know, clothing and furniture and stuff. And because I grew up a lot in hotels, and on the road, you just can't get really attached. It was sort of like, oh, well, here we were moving again. And it was lovely to have houses. It was lovely to have apartments. It was lovely to be in a hotel. But we were, as I said, we were all, meaning the 3 of us, we were this little band of gypsies that my mom would say, come on, we're going. And we'd go, okay, fine. And I'm
one of the quotes that I think I read that you said that you knew geography, but you couldn't spell it. You were traveling so much. And I love that quote. But another thing, one of the things that I do with a lot of my interviews, because I always ask the people that I interview to send me a photograph of them at 5 years old. And the reason I ask for that, because I think of the 5-year-old self as a pure self. For most people, it's before they start school, before peer pressure begins to be added upon them, and teachers begin to tell them who they should be or who they shouldn't be. And I asked also Chris for a photograph, and he sent me this iconic photograph of you. And I was thinking about this photograph today, because in show business lore, the dream is to make it to the Palace Theater. And here you started at the Palace Theater. Here you are at a very early age, on stage, of course, with your mom at the Palace Theater. Do you have, what your recollections are of that moment on stage with your mom?
No, I was 4. No, it's interesting, because a lot of people would love me to go and tell this wonderful, I don't know, story about that photograph. I don't remember it. I was, my mom played so many theaters and did so much, but that was our normal. So her lifting me up to a microphone was not unusual, and it wasn't anything odd, or it was my normal. And people have a bit of a hard time understanding that because they always keep the one question that I get asked, and I think that people who have come from a famous family, they always get asked what it was like. We have nothing to compare it to.
Exactly.
So we have to say it was so normal. I mean, it was. Now, it may not be your normal, and it may not be the person who asked the questions normal, but it was ours. And so I didn't know that was the Palace Theater. I didn't know that was anything. I didn't know. I know my mom picked me up and, let me, I don't need to know what I said, probably hello. And that was my normal. I mean, she did that a lot when we were on the road with her, because she was proud of us, and she was everything that I learned about being a mother. I did learn from her. I learned about listening, and I learned about communication, and I learned about talking to my children and not at them. And I think that she was way before she was a working parent when working parents were sort of staying home and vacuuming in dresses, which I thought was peculiar. Mm-hmm. But that's how we grew up. So I wish I had a really detailed story about that.
Well, your answer is right on the money. I mean, if you don't remember, you don't remember. But I do want to ask, even though you grew up in this show business household, some people grow up in households where their parents are in the police force,
right, or
their parents are are doctors. Today is National Doctors Day, and I want to acknowledge the doctors who have, I'm sure you are very thankful for, and we are too. But there must have come a moment in your life where, even growing up in that world, you knew that this was definitely the path for you. Do you have a moment where that light bulb went off and you said, this is definitely the path I'm going to pursue?
No, there wasn't really a light bulb moment, but I think when you come from a family of doctors, I don't think it's odd that you decide to become a doctor. You come from a family of lawyers, you don't really, find odd that somebody's going to be. I just did. I went into the family business, and that's what I did. And it wasn't expected, and it wasn't asked of me. I honestly thought, I remember saying, I don't know how to do anything else. And I didn't really want to do anything else, because I think that I think we're a product of what we know. And I knew about entertainment. I knew about entertainers and entertainment. And for me, it growing up around it, it looked effortless. It looked like a lot of fun. It looked like a way to get out of school. So I thought to myself, well, I think I can do this. I think this is fun. And as I got older, I realized it's called show business. And it is a business. And you have to learn about the business, and you have to learn that it's not all about the show. And if you make it about that, you're going to have a pretty rude awakening, because all of a sudden you're going to wind up saying, what happened to that money? But you have to learn, and the business of show business is something I don't really enjoy, but I had to learn it. And I had to learn the way that everybody else not only reacts, but everybody else has a job. And why do producers do this, and why do agents do this, and why do publicists do this, and and once you find out that it really is a machine that the audience really sometimes doesn't get to see, that's when you think to yourself, it's not just about me, it's about everyone around me who make this happen. And that's, I think, growing up in the industry like I did, I watched all of that. I watched, and it made me grateful, because I thought to myself, these are the people that make the show reality for the audience. It's not just about me. It's about everyone as a unit. And I think the theater does that, and the theater trains you for that, more so than television and film, because on television and film, you get to do it again, and that's the bonus. That's the good part, okay? And the theater, if you mess up, it's there. You can't really roll it back and say, I was only kidding. Let's start this again. And I think that that's the training. And I think that that is the glue that really holds actors together, which is the camaraderie of a family. And that's what the theater does. And everybody does talk about the Broadway community, and we are a community.
Sure is. We
are, because I have to say this, and maybe some people will disagree with me and, I don't know, write letters or something, is that I find out of all of the genres of film and television, recording and all of that, I do find that the theater community, and that really does mean the Broadway theater and theaters around the country and all that, we step up. We're the first ones to really, when something horrendous has happened, we step up. And I think it's because we're the ones who understand what it's like to be run over. I think that we're the ones who understand what it's like, for instance, to give your all and then have your show torn apart, and you get run over, and you think, okay, I got to get up and I got to dust myself off and I got to do this again, and we can't let it affect our performance. And I think when we see somebody hurting, I think because it's happened to us in many kinds of ways, that's what we do.
I'm so glad you said that, because and that's very well put. And I've never thought about it in those terms before. You get a bad review and you have to go on that night. In a film, it's in the can, it's out there, and you can go into hiding, Yeah,
but you also have editors, and if you do something, they can, you have, I feel you have more protection in film and television, because they do protect you, but there's no protection in live entertainment, and especially in what I consider myself to be, which is I'm not crazy, and please don't. I'm not crazy about the word cabaret artist. I'm not crazy about that word. I like the word nightclub. I do, because that's what I do. I perform in a nightclub.
Good for you.
And
but would you like to elaborate on that for a moment? Do you mind?
No.
Okay. Great. Because I agree with you on that.
I grew up around people who talked about nightclubs, and grew up listening to the stories of how they would be singing when they were in their beginnings of their career, where they would be at this club or that club in certain places all over the country. And that's how I started. I started in nightclubs, and there's, you can call them whatever you want, but I prefer nightclubs because that's what I feel that they were called back then, and I still sort of want to pay tribute to that. I mean, we also had showrooms when we had the Great Empire Room at the Waldorf.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't call that a nightclub. I would call, that's more in the genre of, I guess, supper club, because they did have dinner. And then Las Vegas started out like that. You had dinner in Las Vegas, and you sat at great big long tables and had dinner, and it was sort of a nightclub-ish type of feeling, rather than now everything's Cirque du Soleil, and it's just sort of taken. For me, I like the intimacy of being that close. And I know a lot of people who have said to me, I could never do what you do. And I think, why? And they say it's too frightening, because there's nobody out there. You can't leave the show, and if somebody says, well, I didn't really like it, you can't say, well, I didn't write it, because you did. Or you don't have real costumes and sets, and you have no real script. It's you. And some people it terrifies. I really like it. I enjoy it. I enjoy the intimacy. I like seeing people's faces. I like feeling that we're all in one sort of big living room for an hour or so. I really like that. And I love theater. I really do. And yet it's fantastic to be in a hit show, and it's fantastic to have that wonderful feeling of a cast and to make that friendship. And those are the friendships that I've made, and I keep them. The people in the theater, I keep those friendships. I find that film and television, they all go on to other things, but there's something incredibly honest about people in the theater. So I keep those relationships, but I find that I've also seen people that go from show to show to show, and when it's time for them to be in a nightclub situation, you can see that they are a deer in the headlights, because
Yes.
There's no script, there's no set, there's no costume. It's you. And you're basically sort of stripped of everything. And it's the most honest you have to be.
But you do it brilliantly. You do it, and I cannot wait to be there tomorrow night. But it's true. But I want to go back to something that you brought up a few moments ago when you talked about the business end of this show business. When I interviewed Davis Gaines, another brilliant entertainer who's equally adept at both ends of it, he said that when you go into this, you have an idea of a career, a game plan. But once you get into the throes of it, it's like being in a pinball machine, because all of a sudden you're being bandied around. And with yourself, have you mapped out a career in terms of getting from point A to point B and beyond? Or do you feel that it's the circumstances of the way things come your way? How do you map out a career for yourself? Do you have a game plan?
No. I never had a game plan. I didn't. I just thought, I've always found myself being a person who has compartmentalized everything. And I can't deal with a lot of stuff going on at once. I find myself really shrinking.
Mhm.
But if I put something in this box and I deal with it then, and then I'm good, and then I'm fine, and then I move on to the next thing, and then I move on to the next thing. But I have no game plan. It's what I'm doing in the moment. And that has saved my my sanity, my life, my everything, because everyone, I'm sure in your audience may know, I was diagnosed 8 years ago with cancer. I battle every day, and I still am, and that's what has gotten me down that road of just saying I have to deal with this here and now, and find out how I deal with this. And I can't deal with all of the other things because I don't like feeling that my head is in a blender. I feel safe and all of that if I just deal with everything on the level that it's given to me at that point. And I find myself, one of my doctors said, "You're amazing at doing that," because we've given you a lot of information. And what's amazing to us is, I said, that's the only way I can do this. I can do this with, let me do this here and now and figure out this, and then I'll go on to the next thing. Maybe it'll have to be in an hour, or maybe in a week, or maybe in a month. But that's how I do it. And that's the way I've always been.
Well, God bless you. And do you mind if we talk about a mutual friend of ours?
Okay, I don't know.
David Sabella.
Oh, yes.
Yes, because David works with you, and can you talk about the process of what he's done in terms of helping you after going through not only the cancer that you've gone through, but you were in London, you were performing, and you collapsed on stage. Years ago, I was doing a show and I passed out on stage. So I know what that experience is like.
Well, wait, we have to go back, Richard. That didn't happen.
That didn't happen.
No, that was a story that I didn't collapse on stage.
So made up story, everyone.
Okay, but I will tell you how it did happen.
Okay.
No, I, as I said, I've been battling for 8 years when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I've had some challenging and interesting and terrifying. It's really been, I've never considered this a journey, because my journey is to Bloomingdale's. My journey is to department stores, to shoes and handbags. That's my journey. This is the ride. And I've always called it a ride because it has the same dips and curves and loop-de-loops as any ride. And have I come to the end of this ride? No, I'm still on it. So I have found that what happened to me is I was diagnosed. I have incredible doctors who have not only given me the education of the world of cancer today, but how far we have come in the world of holding it at bay, but also making sure that I become, and I have become, proactive in my healthcare, because I wasn't. And I didn't go to doctors because I was terrified of them and I didn't like them. And then all of a sudden I was faced with the scariest moment, because I was terrified of the word, I was terrified of everything, and then it happened to me. And I thought, I can either do one thing. I can be a flamingo and stick my head in the sand and say, I'm not going to deal with this, or I'm going to look it straight in the face and say, let's go. And that's what, it took me a while, but I had an amazing, amazing doctor who is an extraordinary friend to me. His name is Dr. David Agus. And I'm sure a lot of your viewers know him from the CBS morning show because he is the doctor on that show. And he is my light in education of what I had, how we would fix it, and what my options were. And he said the most important thing is we have options. And it was something, he put a team of incredible doctors together for me, and I sat down and I listened. And so what happened to me is when you have breast cancer, it spreads to other parts of your body. And after, I guess it was 6 years, things started popping up, and I'm constantly being looked after. And I happened to, I was in London, and I said to I was on the plane going to London, and I said to my husband, something's not right, and I'm not able to read anything. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, I don't know, but everything looks like a jigsaw puzzle. And he said, okay. And I said, but I think it's jet lag. I'm really positive this is jet lag. And he went, oh, okay. And I got to London, and it didn't get any better. And so my husband got on the phone with my doctors, and they said, get her to an emergency room. And I said, I'm going to the hairdressers. And he said, get her. And I said, I'm doing a show. And I went to do my show. I could remember all of my lyrics, but I couldn't remember what word would come after the next word. And my husband said, this is really interesting. And he said, something's not right. I said, I'm fine. It's jet lag. My doctors kept saying, then they started getting mad, and they said, okay, we know what this could lead to. So I said, all right. So then I did another show, and it became real interesting. And my husband said, that's the end of this. And they took me to a fantastic hospital in Chelsea, and they did a CAT scan, and I had a brain tumor the size of an orange.
Oh my God.
And I said to myself, well, this is interesting. Now what are we going to do? And they told me...
Interrupting, Lorna, you had this brain tumor, but it was not physically showing or anything?
No, it was all in the back of my head.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was good. It was about the size of a good orange. It was good. It was quite remarkable. And it was all about getting me back to the States. And then a story was coming out that I'd collapsed. And my publicist and everybody said, wait, we have to come out and say what happened to her. So they had to come out and tell. Now my children had been told by my husband, and everybody started to panic a bit because one newspaper was going to come out that there was a drinking problem going on, of course, and they had to bring. I've been sober 37 years, so
God bless you.
They had and to stop all of that, they said, okay, we have to say what happened to her, okay, and they did, and the doctors in London were extraordinary, and it was actually the great. Do you know Anita Dobson?
Yes.
And she's married to the wonderful and brilliant and incredible Brian May. They were in the audience that night, and Anita and I have worked together, and she was actually the one who said something's wrong and said, Colin, something's wrong, and get her somewhere. So thank you, Anita. Thank you, Brian. And so the whole next couple of days was to get me back to to California so I could go to get to my doctors. And it was all about basically getting this tumor shrunk enough that I could get on an airplane. And that was interesting. And they did it, and I did it. And I met an incredible brain surgeon. And 2 days after I'd gotten back to California, he said, "What are you doing Tuesday?" I said, "Having my head cut open by you." He said, "Good idea." And I said, "Okay." So I had that done. And yeah, and I've had interesting things with this this disease. And I have also the words of Dr. Agus have I guess, echoed in my brain every single day is your attitude is 90% of your healing. So even when I was on, I really was on a gurney being wheeled in to the operating room, I said, "Wait, you got to promise me something." And the brain surgeon, he was so wonderful. He said, "Now?" I said, "Now." And I said, "You've got to promise me that when you take this out, you have to say, 'F you, she won.'" And once I came out of, and I said, "Did you say it?" And he said, I said, "F you, I won because I'm the doctor." And I said, "Okay, it's all about billing. I get it."
Of course.
Okay. So, I mean, we laugh about it. We, you know, I've had this. I've talked to many women who also have gone through the diagnosis, the treatment, all of that, and we've all found that there is a sisterhood of cancer, and I'm in that sisterhood. I'm proud to share my stories with people because maybe there's someone out there who is as terrified as I was when it all started with me. And I basically feel that I've learned to put on, as David Agus always says, put on your war paint and let's go get this. And I think you gotta battle. So that's what I do. And it's just, it's remarkable, the education of what I have learned and what the scientists, because I've gone down to the scientists' labs and I've seen them. I've thanked the scientists, and I've done that. I've gone down and seen them growing cancer cells in petri trays and looking. And I know what that's like because they never see us. They're in windowless rooms, and I've gone down and said, "I'm your face. Thank you, thank you." And I think that that's really important to find out. Don't be afraid to find out and ask questions. And nothing is stupid. Nothing's dumb to ask.
That's wonderful. Well, God bless you. And we're going to give away your book. We're going to, and I want to show everyone what we're going to do. We're bringing up the word fun. And as you can see, even in the face of adversity, you can find fun. The book, of course, is A Star is Born.
Okay.
This book is so incredible. I was there at Radio City Music Hall the night of the restored version. Lorna, I remember it like it was yesterday. I end my shows with my homage to James Lipton inside the Actors Studio. So I've got a few questions here.
Okay, but let me go back, Richard, for 2 seconds. Okay?
Yes, of course.
Because I want to go back to talking about David Sabella and what he did, because that's what you originally
of course.
asked me. David had to teach me how to sing again when I had all of my surgery before the brain tumor. And it was kind of amazing. They took away part, and I have to say part of 7 of my ribs. So I had to learn to breathe differently. I had to do all these things. And David Sabella was there for me. And he is so smart and he's so talented and he's such an amazing, not only teacher, but everything else that goes with that, of really being a psychiatrist and understanding of what I was talking to him about medically and all of that. And he taught me how to think of things differently, because he said there are certain things you don't have anymore. So we have to now strengthen other parts of you and all of that. And he taught me so much, and to, again, not to be afraid. And I think as singers, we do get frightened of being out of our comfort zone. And David taught me to sing out of my comfort zone. And so that when I'm on stage in my comfort zone, it's a lot easier. And it was something that was really interesting, because he had me singing in keys that I said, this is so uncomfortable. And he said, good. And I said, I don't, and he said, trust me on this, learn how to do it this way. And then when we put keys back to where it's written, it'll be a lot easier. And that's what he did for me. And he's with me tomorrow night and Friday and Saturday. And he's not only my friend and an incredible performer himself, and I was lucky to do Guys and Dolls with his great brother Ernie.
Oh, we love it.
I can't thank the Sabella brothers more for being a friend and being there for me, because yeah, I've fallen down and they've taken me by the back of the neck and said, okay, get up, let's go. And that's what your friends are. And I also think your friends, real friends, are the ones where you run something by them and they have the courage and the knowledge to say, I don't think that's a really good idea. Mm-hmm. Those are your friends. The ones who keep saying, you're fabulous, it's a great idea, and oh, we love you and you're fabulous. I don't think those are your friends. The people who are your friends who are the ones who tell you no.
Yes. And David, I love you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that, I do. So these are my questions. Again, my homage to James Lipton inside this actor studio. The first question is, how do you want others to see you, especially this week?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, as with a different hair color.
Well, you look fabulous.
We can just go through my hair colors and find out what period that I was thinking. Either, oh, that was good, or oh, what was I thinking? I think that I just want people to come to the show and have a good time, because we're doing music of the generation that I came from. All right. And we're doing music that not only did my generation grow up with, but now my children have learned it, my grandchildren are learning it. So we're doing tributes to Beatles. We're doing tributes to Ronnie Spector, Ellie Greenwich. It's the 60s, and it's that time before it all got complicated and weird. And there was a time out there when it really was fun. All right. And we teased our hair within an inch of its life, and we wore that black eye makeup. And I mean, it was fun. And that's what I wanted. We've been through so much heartache. And I thought, what was the best time of what years would, and it had to be 1963. It had to be when the Beatles came over, and having that Peter Jackson documentary that
Oh,
was so
wonderful.
remarkable, called Get Back, and what it meant to me and what it did and who they were, and watching them write those songs. That's who I am paying um, honors to, because they got us through, not only giving us a voice, but they got us through just being teenagers. But they also gave us a voice of we were not going to be seen and not heard anymore. And the 60s did that. Not the late 60s, because then it sort of got, I always think it sort of got odd and strange.
Mhm.
But the beginning of the 60s, when in 63, when it all started happening, it was so vibrant and exciting, and all of those incredible Mary Quant outfits, and everybody was trying to talk in a really bad fake English accent, and it was good. We
Oh,
had a great time.
that was great. Now, without mentioning any names, who was the scariest person that you've ever encountered in your profession, and how did you get past that person
The scariest person in
in show business, without mentioning any names, because I'm all about celebrating?
Oh, well, when I don't know about scary. There are people who I haven't really enjoyed, that I've found myself just hearing the wonderful Kay Thompson, who was such a big part of my life and of my family's life. And he used to say, "Oh, the drapes are on fire. I have to go." And
I love that.
well, and that's how I got around people who I found unpleasant or scary, if you want to say. Yeah, the drapes are on fire. I have to go. So yeah, that's how I got around that.
Oh, that's wonderful. What was there anything that took any energy away from your creativity this week?
This week,
Yes.
well, it
This
was really
past
interesting. This week was interesting. No, there was nothing that ever took away any of my energy. I mean, this whole the last 3 weeks have been so joyful and so incredible for me to have this brand new baby in our family, who is beautiful and so new and so, I mean, incredible, that I the first couple of minutes I just sat there with, his name is Kieran, and I sat and I said to my daughter, I said, "Vanessa, you made this. I mean," and I was just, it's just an incredible experience with a newborn. And so that's been, for the last 3 weeks, have been so filled with surprise, and his older brother Logan has just been extraordinary with him, and then my son's two children, who are just Jordan and Luke, who we've all been celebrating, that we have this brand new life in our families. So it's been really, it's been joyful for me. And I have to say this, I must say this. My daughter yesterday was on the Today Show.
Yes, brilliant piece. It was wonderful.
She's never done an interview.
Wow.
And she was amazing. I was so proud of her. I was so genuinely grateful to say that she understood not only what I've been trying to explain to her about her grandmother, that she got it, that she really understood, because there was no one there. Her grandmother's been gone for so long. And so for her to come out and say all of these things, I was just sitting there with my jaw on the floor, tears rolling down my face, and thinking to myself, she got it. She got it.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And we're going to give away a book, and I'm going to show how this is done. We're going to do the draw right now, and this is how it's done. Thank you all for tuning in tonight, by the way. You see my hands are here, so I have nothing to do. Dee's Enlightened Edits. Who is this? I don't know who this is. Please send an email to richard@richardskipper.com so that I can make sure that I get the information so we can get the book to you. Once again, that's richard@richardskipper.com. I'm going to remove this. I'm going to pull this up. Lorna, I want to thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm going to be there tomorrow night. As I said, don't go anywhere for a moment. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I'm sure that I can speak for Lorna when I say this. We don't take it lightly when you show up. So thank you all for taking the time to be here tonight. We hope that you had a great time. At least I hope that you had a great time. Please, if this was your first time here, I hope it will not be your last. Please consider subscribing to Richard Skipper Celebrates. My goal is to celebrate artists and their body of worth. Check out the other artists that I've celebrated here. Leave a comment on YouTube. Share this with your friends. Tell others. If you are in New York City or the tri-state area, or even if you're not in the tri-state area, transportation, it's easy to get in New York these days. Travel is cheap these days. Get to New York over the next 3 days and get to Feinstein's 54 Below. That is, if you can get a ticket, and see Lorna Luft and David Sabella and Mark Hartman at the keyboard, at the piano. So please come and see them. The joy of spring. I always end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list and reach out to the third name that pops up and reach out with a phone call. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, but a phone call, and let that person know what they mean to you. As my dear friend Sean Moniger always says, we're always in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure you bring a skipper along. So I'm going to leave the screen, Lorna, and I'm going to give you the final word. Anything you want to say about anything that we talked about tonight that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just a final message that you want to leave everyone with tonight. And don't worry about how to end the show. As soon as you say goodbye, the credits will roll. I thank you for being here, and I hope you'll come back sometime.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There's so much that is going on in the world right now. And the only thing that I would really ask of people is to realize how lucky we are. Because when you look at what is going on in the Ukraine, where my grandmother was from Odessa, she was a wonderful woman. She taught me a great deal. All I'm asking is just do something, whatever it is. If you donate, if you pack a box, if you think to give help to the refugees of Ukraine, I cannot begin to tell you how we all can help one another by helping people that are not as fortunate as we are. I can't wait to see all of you at 54 Below. I want to celebrate. I want to have a good time. I want you to stand up and sing and dance and have a good time like we did in 1963. If you want to tease up your hair and wear your black eyeliner, come along and do it. And I thank you so very, very much. And I'll see you in the next couple of days. Thanks.